What's good? It's Woog. I wanted to react to the 2024 Grammy Awards, which just wrapped up, and had some very interesting takeaways. This was a very entertaining Grammy ceremony. In terms of my predictions, I got some of them right, I got a lot of them wrong. And in this video, I just want to cover some of the most significant winners, some of the biggest news to come out of the Grammys, as well as some of my favorite moments from the broadcast. And we can lead with I would say the biggest news out of the ceremony. And it's because history was made with Taylor Swift winning the award for Album of the Year with Midnights. She just became the first ever 4-time Album of the Year winner. For a while, she was tied with Frank Sinatra, Stevie Wonder, and Paul Simon. Paul Simon won once with Simon and Garfunkel, then won twice solo. And now Taylor Swift just broke the tie. She initially won it with Fearless, then she won it with 1989, then she won it with Folklore, now she just won it with Midnight. So Taylor Swift stands alone with 4 Album of the Year Grammy wins. I mean, look, regardless of whether you're a fan of her music or not, you've got to acknowledge the consistency. She's always right back in the studio. She's been doing all this while re-recording her old catalog to try to regain power over her initial masters. Like, Taylor Swift is busy. And ever since she came into the game, she has just been on a relentless pace, making album after album without the quality of each album being reduced really in any way. Like, for me, Folklore was one of her best albums in her entire catalog. And here again, she just won her 4th Album of the Year with Midnights. Now, the 4 major awards went to Record of the Year, Miley Cyrus with Flowers. That's not the one that I would have thought would have won. I thought that SZA was actually going to win that one with Kill Bill. Miley Cyrus won it with Flowers. Album of the Year, as I mentioned, Taylor Swift with Midnights, which was my pick to win it. Not my favorite album of the bunch. That could have been Lana Del Rey. There were a few albums actually from this category that I personally enjoyed more than Midnights, but as a prediction, I picked Midnights to win. Song of the Year was won by Billie Eilish's What Was I Made For from the Barbie soundtrack. I did think that one was going to win. That was a phenomenally melancholy and somber song, but Billie Eilish won it there. And then Best New Artist was won by Victoria Monet, whose Jaguar 2 album I love. I didn't think she was going to win this one. I thought that it was going to either go to Ice Spice or maybe even Jelly Roll. But congrats to Victoria Monet for winning Best New Artist. Victoria Monet also won the award for Best R&B Album. And it was pretty touching because she gave a good speech. Once she won Best New Artist, she had been paying dues for a long time. I mean, for years before she was a known artist. She was like the chief songwriter for many of Ariana Grande's more recent songs. Like, if you see a lot of pictures of Ariana Grande around the time she was crafting some of her best, most recent albums, you'll see her pictured with Victoria Monet. So Victoria Monet, again, she was paying her dues behind the scenes, and it was a pretty inspirational speech that she gave after winning Best New Artist. And some of the, I would say, major category snubs were SZA, Lana Del Rey. I'm just talking artists who they may have won elsewhere. Like, SZA won multiple awards, but she didn't win any of the major categories that she was nominated for. She didn't, Lana Del Rey didn't, Olivia Rodrigo didn't, and Boygenius didn't. I mean, there were others who didn't, like Dua Lipa, but she was only nominated for one of those 4 majors. Jon Batiste was nominated in several majors. He was shut out of the majors as well. And by the way, it was announced by Boygenius, that's a singer-songwriter supergroup of Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, and Julian Baker, that they would take a collective hiatus, that Boygenius is going to go dormant for a while. I don't know if that means that they just, continue their respective solo careers, which are also going phenomenally. I mean, Phoebe Bridgers recently kind of became the indie it girl after releasing Punisher. So I assume that they're going to proceed with their respective solo careers, but it sounds like Boygenius is going to be on pause for the foreseeable future. And Boygenius won a couple of awards as well. Again, not in the major categories, but they won 3 awards. Best Alternative Music Album, which is one of my favorite categories, and I actually did pick them to win in that category. They won it with Best Rock Song and Best Rock Performance. I think the song was not strong enough for each one of those 2 categories. So yeah, they did win 3 awards. And circling back to Taylor Swift, her longtime producer, at least more recently, Jack Antonoff, just won his 3rd consecutive Producer of the Year. that's a bit of history as well. The only other producer who's ever done that was Babyface, Kenneth Babyface Edmonds, who did that in the 90s. And Jack Antonoff is now tied for second for most producer of the year, non-classical, most producer of the year wins. Jack Antonoff now has 3. He's tied with David Foster, Quincy Jones, and Pharrell Williams. And number 1 in that category is still Babyface with 4 producer of the year wins. So yeah, Jack Antonoff just broke off his 3rd consecutive win. I actually thought that he should have won the award before he started winning the award. I thought that when he produced Norman effing Rockwell, that album by Lana Del Rey, I thought that he should have won it that year. And that was also coming off the heels of producing Lord's best album. And there was other great work that Jack Antonoff did at that same time as well. I actually thought that he should have won the producer of the year back then. This year, I would have liked to have seen Metro Boomin win it. Or, I mean, Hit Boy, who's been producing like all of the Nas, King's Disease, and Magic albums. But Metro Boomin, I see as being the producer who I would most closely associate with being the architect of the current sound of not only hip hop, but a lot of popular music, that down tempo, quiet, spooky trap music that you hear behind some of the biggest hits from Migos, Future, Travis Scott, 21 Savage, so many, Young Thug, so many of the most prevalent and prominent artists. I look at Metro Boomin. There are others who have been doing the similar sound, but Metro Boomin first came out with 808 Mafia along with Southside and TM88, and them, as well as some other producers, were responsible for that sound. But Metro Boomin to me has been the most consistent. He was one of the earliest ones to kind of pioneer that sound because it was a change, a shift from a busier sounding trap beat in rap that was prevalent, like in the Gucci Mane, Waka Flocka era with the Lex Lugers and different producers like that. Metro Boomin I see as being kind of the vanguard of the next wave of sound, and he's been super consistent over like the past 10 to 12 years. I would have loved to have seen him awarded this year with producer of the year, which he hasn't won. But yeah, Jack Antonoff just won his 3rd consecutive in that category. And once again, circling back to Taylor Swift, when she won Album of the Year, she also announced that her new album is dropping in April. It's called The Tortured Poets Department. So yeah, Taylor Swift always knows how to kind of break the next news as what's happening right now is happening. So yeah, she just made her next chess move and the internet blew up. You know what I mean? So yeah, Taylor Swift is just doing Taylor Swift like things. I mean, she just won Album of the Year again, made history, becoming the first to do that. And next week, she's going to be all over the cameras, I'm sure, during the Super Bowl. And in other big Grammy news, Killer Mike sweeps the rap category. He just won 3 awards, and he was just on Real Time with Bill Maher a few days ago as well. But he just won Best Rap Album, Best Rap Song, and Best Rap Performance. Quite frankly, I kind of thought that he might have been the least likely to win in Best Rap Album, not because his music isn't good or even great. Look, I've been a Killer Mike fan since, he first came onto the scene. I don't know if y'all remember, he was featured on that Outkast song several years ago, The Whole World, 'cause the whole world loves it when you don't get down. It was kind of an Outkast single between albums, and Killer Mike came in with an aggressive "Player I grind," dun, 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 dun. And he just, it's like, who's this? Okay, so then after that, he started dropping mixtapes like I Pledge Allegiance to the Grind, and then he dropped a very good solo album called Rap Music. Then he spent about a decade making nothing but Run the Jewels music, which had a life of its own. They graced a lot of Coachella stages. They are so critically acclaimed with each one of their albums, RTJ 1 through 4, 4 albums together. It was Killer Mike and LP from the underground hip hop crew Company Flow. They did their thing collectively as Run the Jewels, and then Killer Mike circled back and released another solo album called Michael. And this was a very good album, but because just, his name doesn't have the same recognition as, Drake, Nas, some of the other people that were, nominated. I mean, Travis Scott. I just didn't think that he would win it with Michael, or even in the song categories. I thought that some of the biggest names were going to win it. But I mean, this just goes to show that in some cases, the Recording Academy will get it so right when it comes to quality. And look, don't get me wrong, I love Nas's King's Disease 3. I actually thought that Drake and 21 Savage were going to win the award because Drake has been boycotting the Grammys, made an exception with that Her Loss 21 Savage collab, probably because he didn't want to rob 21 Savage of the opportunity to win a Grammy. But yeah, the Recording Academy, they went with Michael, the Killer Mike album. And then in the 2 solo categories, Best Rap Song and Best Rap Performance, they went with his song from Michael, Scientists and Engineers, which features Future, Andre 3000, and Aaron Allen Kane. So yeah, Killer Mike cleaned up in the rap categories. And he was actually handcuffed and detained during the Grammy ceremony. And that was very odd. I actually just saw that break on social media. I'm like, what the hell happened? I guess according to TMZ, it was some physical altercation. So I don't have all the details in terms of why Killer Mike was handcuffed and escorted through the venue in public. I just thought that, I don't know. Again, I don't know what happened, but it was just unfortunate that, you know, the biggest moment of his career also includes that moment. So, I mean, maybe for him and others, that'll just make that night much more memorable. It's like the same day that you just break through winning 3 Grammy Awards, you get handcuffed and arrested that same night. But yeah, Killer Mike won big. Again, he was kind of the underdog as I saw it in these categories. And, you know, it was kind of interesting. I was looking at, you know, the Pitchfork and the different publications as they were kind of announcing the winners of some of the early awards. Since not everything gets televised during the Grammy ceremony, a lot of these winners are announced before the show even starts. And so at first I had seen that Nicki Minaj, Ice Spice, and Aqua, remember I'm a Barbie girl from the 90s? Well, they had Barbie World from the Barbie soundtrack, and that was initially announced by the Grammys as the winner of, I believe, Best Rap Song. And it was announced mistakenly because, again, Killer Mike ended up being the winner. So I don't know what kind of a mix-up or what happened there, but I mean, damn, that's got to be disappointing if you were like the artist and you heard that you won the award. I kind of hope that it was announced that they were already privy to the idea that they didn't win. I wouldn't want them to have that La La Land moment where it's then, I don't know if y'all remember, but at the Oscars, La La Land was like the best picture or something like that. And then it was announced and they came up to receive their award. Then Warren Beatty, the legendary, you know, classical actor who had read off the winner from the card was then taken by somebody else and it was corrected. And they said, no, Moonlight won, not La La Land. And so, yeah, that was just one of the more embarrassing moments of Academy Award Oscars history. And, you know, thank goodness there was no on stage, you know, mess up like that. Again, I only saw the news digitally, so I don't know if it was actually announced to the artist, but yeah, that part's unfortunate. And I'm just going to list off some of the biggest winners numerically, just in terms of who won the most awards, in terms of the multi-award winners this year. Paramore won 2. Boygenius, as I mentioned, won 3 awards. Killer Mike won 3 awards. Jason Isbell, the country artist, alt country Americana, great artist. Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit won 2 awards. Lecrae, the Christian rapper, won 2 awards. Chris Stapleton won 2 awards. Victoria Monet won 2. Taylor Swift won 2, including, again, Album of the Year. Miley Cyrus won 2, including Record of the Year. SZA won 2, even though neither of those was one of the major awards. So those are all of the multi-award winners. So there wasn't any winner who brought home like 5, 6 awards. Some years you see somebody with a handful of Grammys. You didn't get too much of that. There was more parity among the nominees. Like some people won 2, some people won 3, but nobody was like the major winner who just kind of swept the, you know, the major categories. Again, there was a different winner in each of the 4 major categories this year. Now, in terms of some of my favorite moments from this ceremony, I like the fast car performance by Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs. I thought that was a very good moment. Billie Eilish, performance-wise, performing What Was I Made For? Again, it's such a melancholy, somber song, and her ability to just sing into the mic in a way where it's almost like you're being whispered to with her very down-tempo, despondent style. But it's just a beautiful song written by her and her brother Phineas. And yeah, I just enjoyed her performance. Very down-tempo, low-key, but it was very powerful in its own way. Miley Cyrus, I mean, you want to talk about a performer who's just becoming an all-around entertainer. I mean, her showmanship in that one, not to mention just overall her presentation, how comfortable. I mean, she was pushing boundaries like what, 10 years ago now? So yeah, she's a different person than she was around the time that she had the hits like Wrecking Ball. She's just come such a long way. Her career has really kind of like evened out, matured out. And if you listen to her Endless Summer Vacation album, it's way different than her earlier stuff, which is also way different than her way earlier stuff like Hannah Montana era. Miley Cyrus has been around for a moment, and I also like the maturity and the deepness, the rasp in her voice. She's got a very unique pop vocal, and I just really loved her performance of Flowers. I don't know if towards the end she was channeling Tina Turner just with the overall look. I'm not sure if that was the thing, but yeah, she just had a very, I don't know, very 1980s presentation look to her, and it just worked. And some of her acceptance speeches were pretty good as well. Again, she's just very comfortable, having been an envelope pusher for so long. She just knows what she's doing up there. And every Grammys, one of my favorite parts of the ceremony is the in memoriam, where they're honoring the people who had just passed away over the past year. It's one of the saddest moments of the ceremony, but it's also one of the most beautiful. And you just see the different names. And, I covered a lot of the people who had passed away. I'd done like 1 minute shorts, just kind of giving nutshell versions of their life and career as best I could within 1 minute. But maybe it's no different than any other year, but it just feels, when you see the names come off, it's like, damn, so many people passed away over the past year. And performance wise, during that time, you had Stevie Wonder kind of doing a tribute to Tony Bennett. You had Annie Lennox doing a tribute to Sinead O'Connor. You had Jon Batiste doing a tribute to the Black Godfather, Charles Avant, one of the best and greatest movers and shakers in the game. Gave so many people their start and their visibility. He did so much. Charles Avant, for instance, if you're a boxing fan, the name Al Heyman is almost synonymous with boxing. He was largely behind a lot of Floyd Mayweather's success. Charles Avant was one of the people who helped Al Heyman further his career, which then crossed over into boxing. But Al Heyman got his start in the music game. But Charles Avant was also the guy who signed Bill Withers. So when Jon Batiste honored him, he was playing like Ain't No Sunshine and Lean On Me. And then you had Fantasia Barrino. Fantasia, who was the American Idol winner in season 3, I believe. And I know this because my sister, Lisa Tucker, was a top 10 American Idol finalist in season 5. So she got to do the tour with like Chris Daughtry and a bunch of others. So I've got kind of like a special place in my heart for those early years of American Idol. But yeah, Fantasia is just a phenomenal performer overall. And during that in memoriam, she did a tribute to the late, great Tina Turner that was just phenomenal. Her voice, Fantasia is just one of those take no prisoners when it comes to her vocal performance, and she just has a way about her. And I think that she was so appropriately selected to do the Tina Turner portion of the tribute. It was just beautiful. But yeah, so many people passed away over the past year. Rudolph Isley from the Isley Brothers, Robbie Robertson from the band, Wayne Shorter, the jazz legend, Les McCann, another jazz legend, Ahmad Jamal, another jazz legend, Bobby Caldwell, Astrid Gilberto, that's the vocalist from The Girl from Ipanema. She did a lot of music with like Stan Getz, and João Gilberto. In fact, that was an album of the year winner, Getz Gilberto, which had The Girl from Ipanema. Astrid Gilberto was the vocalist on that, as well as on Quiet Nights, Quiet Stars. Randy Meisner from the Eagles, he was the one who was the lead vocal on the song Take It to the Limit. He passed away. The Detroit singer, songwriter, musician, Sixto Rodriguez, there's a great documentary about him called Searching for Sugar Man. Cynthia Wilde, the great songwriter, she passed away. Magoo, the Timbaland associate, MC, rapper. I don't know if they covered him in the in memoriam, but he passed away as well. And I'm not going to remember everybody off the top of my head who passed away. And I don't want to do a disservice by, leaving people out, but there were just so many. And this in memoriam always does a great job at just capturing just many of those names. And some of the people are like behind the scenes, some of them are engineers, some of them are, unsung heroes when it comes to musicianship. Just so many different artists, musicians, executives, and so forth. So yeah, that's always one of my favorite moments. But yeah, performance wise, Fantasia killed that Tina Turner part of the tribute. I also enjoyed Jay-Z earning that Global Impact Award, the Dr. Dre Global Impact Award. He had a pretty good speech. He brought Blue Ivy Carter up with him, and man, she's dang near an adult. That's a tall kid right there. I mean, y'all remember when she was born? It seems like only yesterday, right? But yeah, she is like at least like Beyonce's height, but she accompanied Jay-Z to the stage. She was nervous. He was nervous. He gave a good speech. Jay-Z doesn't make a ton of like public appearances, so it's always kind of a cool thing when you see him speaking publicly. I mean, he's just such a phenomenal artist, entrepreneur, mogul, businessman, just cross industry. He is just, he's Jay-Z. I mean, and he did point out that sometimes the Grammys get it right, but sometimes they get it wrong. And it's crazy that Beyonce, who's got more Grammys, I have to double check to see the accuracy. I'm going to take his word for it. He's Jay-Z, but saying that Beyonce has more Grammy wins than anybody, but has never won Album of the Year, which, yeah, Beyonce should have had. I believe that she should have won at least one. I actually thought that she was going to win it last year with Renaissance, but Harry Styles with Harry's House was awarded with Album of the Year. But I just felt like Beyonce was having such a moment with everything that surrounded that Renaissance album, from the tour, the release, the songs like Break My Soul and so forth. But yeah, Jay-Z pointed that out. And then there was Joni Mitchell, who, I mean, you want to talk about an icon, folk rock, folk legend from the late 60s throughout the 70s, throughout the 80s, just a great discography, whose discography has since been, it's taken down from Spotify, so you're not going to find it there. But do yourself a favor, if you haven't listened to Joni Mitchell, especially her stuff from the end of the 60s through, I would say, the late 70s, listen to those albums like Clouds, Blue, Court and Spark, Ladies of the Canyon. Listen to those albums, just a beautiful work of art. Well, she's been through so many health issues as of late. She had like a massive brain aneurysm. She's been sick before. I mean, way earlier in her life. I think she had like polio. She's just battled a ton. And again, she's such an iconic artist because of her folk style. If you listen to how she modulated her voice, just your quintessential songbird, but with such a unique, poetic singer-songwriter style. It was just unlike anybody else. And if you listen to her today, she hasn't retained those same vocal qualities. So the Joni Mitchell that you heard on stage, that's not how she sounded on her records. But I mean, what could you expect? She's like, in her 80s. And it's really just a blessing that she is still with us. So yeah, that was a great moment. That was her first ever Grammy performance, believe it or not. Yeah, but do yourself a favor, listen to some Joni Mitchell music, please. It is very refreshing. I could listen to that stuff any day. And then we got Billy Joel performing his first written song in 30 years. He was one of the great singer-songwriters of the 70s and 80s. And then he just went dormant, like, again, 30-something years without writing a song, and he just came out and premiered one. And he was, of course, on piano, just doing his thing. So it was good to see Billy Joel back in the creative mix, we will say. And then Celine Dion, who's been battling a very debilitating health issue over the past several years. She made it, to the stage to present Album of the Year. So it was great to see Celine Dion. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this year's Grammy Awards. I thought overall it was a good ceremony. Those are just some of my initial thoughts in the wake of the Grammys. Please let me know yours. Like, did you think that there were any major snubs in terms of who should have won the award? Were there any categories where you were happy with the winners, disappointed with the winners? Were there any who you were hoping to see win awards that didn't? Were there any performances or moments that stood out to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.